Under over was 3. I knew you two would be on your phones when I turned around. Literally looked at you first because I knew he would be slower to put his away. You're normally a little quicker with yours. There's only 2 though. I really thought it was 3. Well, he would have been the third one, so. I should have looked at you probably first, then you. All right. So again, not a super difficult lesson. This will be your exit ticket tomorrow. It's actually going to be the first thing we do. So you get to be like, well, it's not really an exit ticket then. Well, it's the exit ticket for today. We're just doing it tomorrow. I'm going to show you like the lesson, show you a couple problems, and then I will give you for your bell work tomorrow a problem that you have to do on paper. Like where I'm not going to be probably walking around. That way we can get more exit tickets in if I print some up that we can do. So make sure you get the concept. It's not super complex. What do we know about those? What do we know about those triangles? What am I giving you that tells you something about those? Gabe. So they all will have 3 sides. What am I giving you on the sides? What do those things mean? I think the same question I asked you yesterday. Different figures. What do those markings mean? Sides. Well, but what about the sides? Why am I putting them on only those 2 sides there? Did you hear? So those markings mean those sides are congruent. Just those 2, not that and this figure. So I know those 2 sides are congruent, meaning they're the same length. So I know the left A, I should say side AB is the same length as side BC. What kind of triangle is that? 7th grade, actually probably even before 7th grade, geometry, you learned the shape. That triangle has a specific name. Put your phone up, girl. Put it up. You're gonna go on my list too. I need to get one out. There you go. There you go. Now you're somebody. You have your own incident list. Oh, you up here on the wall of fame. That's pretty good. Battle. Ah, what's it mean? What kind is it? Annalena. Probably must out of your man. I knew you could know. What kind of triangle is it? I'm not calling you. What kind of triangle is it? Somebody, Brian, you know? It is an isosceles triangle. Good. So it is an isosceles triangle. Here's what you need to know. This is it for an isosceles triangle. If you have 2 sides that are congruent, that's enough information to say that's an isosceles triangle. But the next piece that you have to be able to add in, they will not give you. And like I told you, they won't give you congruence marks in vertical angles. They won't give you congruence marks if a side is shared. When we did those last lessons, they're not going to give you that the angles are also. So if you see that 2 sides are congruent, these are called base angles. You have to know that the 2 base angles are congruent. Now here's the trickier part. You have to know which 2 are the base angles. It's not all. I feel like this one's a little easier to see. Those are the 2 that look the same. Basically, it's the 2 angles that are not between the 2 sides. Like this angle is between the 2 sides where the B is. It's not that one. So just make that note. Nobody wrote a single thing. Do not use, or however you want to write it, I'm going to say it this way. don't use the angle that's between the two sides. It's the other two. So that way, even if it's a little more, yeah, like there, you can't really, actually, let's even do this. So if it was like, ah, take this blue. There. So if it's like that, don't just assume that the two bottom angles are the two that are congruent. Remember, just think to yourself, okay, I know there are two angles that are congruent because two sides are congruent. And then think, don't use the one between the sides. So if that's the one between the sides, don't use that. What's the other two? Can't figure out where base angles are, just think of it that way. Those would be the two. And then now you just set up equations based on whatever information they give you. And if they gave you information on the sides, you could set those equal. The only other piece you have to remember or know, they might not tell you that the two sides are congruent. They might tell you instead that the two angles are congruent. So if they tell you that the two angles are congruent, it's the same thing. You have to know that the two sides are congruent. So if the image was like this, you would have to know, okay, well, if I know those two angles are congruent, I know these are the two sides that are congruent. So again, same concept. When you're done drawing in the markings, the angle that is between them should not be a congruent angle. Just always remember that. The angle between them is never one of the angles that gets used. And now, again, they'll give you information. You'll see some example problems in a minute. You're actually going to set up the equations in a minute. What kind of triangle would this be then? What do the markings mean there? Hi. Just what do the markings mean? Like same thing they meant the other. So we know we have three sides that are congruent. All three sides of the triangle are congruent. What kind of triangle is that? Brought this up again. That's an equilateral. So kind of similar to this, if there were two sides that congruent, there were two angles. If there are three sides that are congruent, then there are three angles. All three angles. And again, that's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about which two like you do here. Just know every single angle is congruent to the other. Who am I going to call on? Well, I'll leave it up for anybody. Who can tell me what the measure of one angle is in that triangle, the equilateral triangle? We got a line going, so I don't even remember the order. Earbud out, please. Roshat, Malachi. Who was after Malachi? Somebody up here, and it's here after Ben. So Roshat, if you want to go ahead and go, you can start the list. Start the line. Oh, who can tell me what is the measure of one angle in an equilateral triangle? Somebody just said it. So if we know they're all the same, here's the math. They're all the same, they would all be the same number. What's true about the three interior angles of any triangle? They add up to 180, right? So now you just do the math and every single angle has to. So you're going to get problems where they might give you like stuff in every angle for an equilateral triangle, and you can add them all up and set them equal to 180, or you could just take one angle and set it equal to 60, and that'd be a lot faster, a lot easier. They'll both work. You should get the same answer either way. All right, that's pretty much the lesson. Write that down. That'll help you if you want to make sure you're ready for the exit ticket tomorrow. That HPR it's not the perfect IXL. Like my quiz, for example, is a little tougher than that, but the exit ticket will be about at that level. So if you can just do those, I I would imagine if you can get to 70 on that, you'll be ready for the exit ticket beginning class tomorrow. So HPR. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do Common Assessment M4 in a minute. Go ahead and set that's the equations already. Go ahead and set the equations up that will allow, if you can solve it out also, but set the equations up, meaning, something plus something, or whatever is equal to whatever for those two figures. Don't worry about this. I want you to set up equations that would allow you to solve for x. And if you have time, just go ahead and try to solve. And I'm pretty sure that's two of the questions that are just like that on the quiz next week. So I feel like this was the quiz, and I just put it in the lesson. Because there's something below that also that also looks like it. Tiger. Because I'm thinking back to a conversation I had with your mom, actually. She told me about when you study with your stepdad. I never studied. I know what she said. Well, she says you get frustrated, so you refuse to do it. But I'm like, yep, that's cool. You kids. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah. I won't tell her you said that. All right, 30 more seconds. You can do the equations. That's at least half the points. You do the correct equations on every problem, that's a C, without being able to do any of the algebra. So that's why I always like to practice setting up equations. What kind of triangle is the first one? I have no idea where we left off. Oh, Natasha. What kind of, girl, we just did it. It's in your notes. What kind of triangle is that? With isosceles. So what do we know if we have two sides that are congruent? We know what? So which two angles? Which one do we not use? Yeah, don't use the one in between. So we know these are congruent. So with that in mind, Tommy's already answered, Justin's answered, Daniel. If I know these two are congruent down to the bottom, what could I put in the one in the bottom right? Same thing. That's it. Don't worry about the fact that it's not a number, that's a 2 and an x. That is the measure of that angle. So now, Aiden, what's true about all three angles of a triangle, interior angles of a triangle? Answer equation. This is not a super difficult concept. It'll kind of, well, I don't even know if some people I think are pretty good at the ASA, all that stuff too. So that's your quiz next week. Side, side angle, side angle, side. Naming them correctly, I think, is on there if I remember. And then this, like equilateral isosceles. So that would be a pretty good start for third quarter. So this would be the equation. You just add up what's in each of the angles. And if you solve it, it's one. Well, if you're solving for x, it's 158 divided by 4. What do we get? 39.5 maybe? Did anybody do it? 39.5. So 39.5 if you solve for x. You add those two together to get 4x. You would subtract the 22 from both sides first. That's just algebra. All right, next equation. So again, what kind of triangle is that? Ben. Man, I did the math the other day. Talking about telling you misinformation. What kind of triangle is that? Oh, you did actually answer it. Maybe in two. Anthony. Oh my goodness gracious. Which one? The one on the right. I mean, you can still answer it if you want. But it's time for a tutoring session for him. I know. So, what's the one on the right? I'm trying. We're gonna answer. Trey, what kind of triangle's on the right? So, what's that mean? What's true about that? We know all the sides are going to tell us that, but what's that also mean? Well, not all the sides, all the angles. Angles. Just, I think you knew that, but just be careful. So, first of all, we know that they're all the same. This would be 4x plus 8. That would be 4x plus 8 degrees. So I could say 4x plus 8 plus 4x plus 8 plus 4x plus 8 equals 180, just like I did here. But what did we also say is true? Peyton kind of wraps it up. All right. Oh, why don't you go ahead and go? That's pricing. Just say our paths, although, did he take? No, just take that. I have a new path, so that one. What did we say about one angle? You didn't write it down, write it down. One angle is what? For an isosceles triangle. So one angle is 60. So instead of adding them all up and setting them equal to 180 like we did in this, in an equilateral triangle, I know each individual angle is just 60. So I could just do that. I don't need to do the whole big long equation. I have to solve it. And now you solve Rex. All right, so that's gonna be, well, again, the better practice for the exit ticket is gonna be that HPR. So we're not doing it today because you're doing something else in class today. But if you really want to make, I mean, again, I don't think it's super complex, especially if you're decent at algebra. But if you want to practice it just to make sure, you can practice that a little bit tonight, or if you have some ability to do it before class tomorrow, that would be enough, really. Go ahead now, though. I want you to log into a computer. If you have your own, use yours, obviously. If you don't have your own, I hopefully will have something. It has to be individual, though. I can't let you share because you're going to do the district test. That's the one you're doing. Common Assessment M4 in Performance Matters. And raise your hand if you need a charger, first of all. You just need a charger. You can sit. Why don't you come over, and since this one's been charging, why don't you sit over here at that? I don't care where you sit, we can use that charger. Do you need one? Raise your hand if you don't have one. Gabe, you don't have one? Put this here. I don't know how to charge this is. You don't have, I'm not gonna have enough. You don't have anything. Oh, whatever happened? You ever get things I can do? Dates? I talked to him again after I'd already talked to him once. I followed up and he said he was still working on it. You don't have one either, right? Not. Oh, actually, maybe I don't have any for charge. Raise your hand again if you don't have one. Phones up. Let's call your mom right now and see if you can do tutoring tomorrow. Should we? I used to do that. When I taught algebra 1A, I used to do that all the time. And when I taught middle school, I used to do that all the time. I'm happy to do it. I feel like it's fine.
Now, Mr. Gill.
Sometimes the parents, we get on and just you can hear them screaming like a kid. So much fun.
Mr. Gill.
I miss that.
It's all fun for you until you meet that one parent that yell at.
Oh, they never got mad at me.
With their kid, dude.
Trust me, they never got mad at me because if I got to the point where I was calling home, they deserved to be screaming. And one time I did feel bad. So bad. Somebody actually kept me.
Oh, bro.
Have you been back?
Oh, bro. That shit.
You don't have one either? Gosh darn it.
I don't.
Yeah. Did it? Oh, well, maybe it's not charged. Here, try this. Some of them don't work. Well, it might truly not work. I'll try to turn it on if I can get this one working. But there was one that, because he gave me a replacement because I think one wasn't working, but then all of a sudden we got the one to work. So it may or may not. Wilson, let it turn. I'm not as concerned about these different things. Why are you so grumpy all the time? That's what I remember.
I'm not connected to the server unit stock.
You need to talk it out with somebody? What was your, we're not doing IXLs.
Oh, what are we doing?
Performance matters M4. No. No, because you got to do this as an individual. So this not M4 you should know. Some people did. You weren't supposed to, but some people did.